Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We're glad you could join us this evening. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. We'll begin this evening with a call to order and an invocation by Pastor Dr. Keith Vereen, Providence Baptist Church.
Good evening. Let us pray. Father God, we petition you this evening on this beautiful day that you have made for us to rejoice and be glad in it. We petition you, Lord God, to be in the midst of these proceedings this evening, Lord. Lord, we pray that all that is said and done, that it be pleasing in thy sight. Lord, we pray for those who have submitted themselves to leadership. We pray, God, that their decisions be prudent. Father, we pray for all the men and women that are serving this community, keeping it healthy, keeping it safe, and keeping it protected. Lord, we just thank you for community. We thank you, Lord God, for the coming together and meeting of minds. Lord, we pray that all the decisions are made for the common good and not just for a few. Lord, this is our prayer in the precious and matchless name of Jesus. And let the redeemed of the Lord say amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So we don't have any presentations this evening, but we are happy to tell you it is continuing to be Parks and Recreation Month in the town of Kernersville. And we got off to an incredibly great start. The fireworks were amazing. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, John Barrow, for your service on that Parks and Rec committee. I think it was the best fireworks show we'd had in many years. I think I saw some firework varieties that I had never seen before, so it was very well done. And following our great drone light show we had for Juneteenth, just a lot of great celebrating so far this summer in Kernersville. All right, we do have public hearings tonight. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration. Those speaking in favor speaking first, those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or choose to allocate that 20 minutes amongst different speakers. In the event that either proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the board. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. In the event that the proponents do not present a rebuttal, the opponent shall be given no further time to speak. So 20 minutes for each side for the public hearings. All right, and if you do wish to speak on a public hearing matter, we do have speaker cards in the back of the room. They're on the little table there next to the doors, and you can give them to our town manager, Mr. Swisher, or our town attorney, Mr. Powell, at this front table. All right, item 1A is a public hearing on Kernersville Development Plan, zoning docket KPD 70. And item B, zoning docket K606A2. And I believe there has been a request to withdraw this petition.
Yes, ma'am. A withdrawal request was received from the applicant yesterday, Monday, July 8th.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more. Is this something the staff would recommend that we grant?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do I have any discussion or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the withdrawal.
I've got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, and then where does that leave this zoning case in case there's people who are interested in it here tonight?
If the applicant is still intending to pursue a rezoning of some type for this property, then they will be resubmitting a new application. So there would be another neighborhood meeting, and then we would follow the due process for legal notifications when we receive an application.
So, and the Do we need to address the issue whether the advertising fees are refunded, or is that the general practice is to not refund them?
The ordinance states that they can be refunded if the withdrawal request comes before we have advertised, and at this point, we have advertised.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so our next item agendas are also public hearings. They're also related. Item C is a public hearing on the Kernersville Development Plan. Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for amendment to the Kernersville Development Plan, zoning docket KDP 71. And item D, a public hearing rezoning, Dana Cottle Jones, agent for owners, requesting a general rezoning from RS7 to PB pedestrian business for properties located at 107, 117, and 119 King Street, zoning docket K815. We'll begin with a presentation from our staff. Ms. Garner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This case, KDP 71 and the associated rezoning will be presented together, and I do apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so please bear with me. The land use plan designation that is existing is medium-density residential, and staff is proposing as part of this land use plan amendment to go to mixed use for the properties at 107, 117, and 119 King Street. The associated rezoning case is a request to go from RS7 to pedestrian business. So the three properties are located here at the end of King Street towards its intersection with North Main Street. You can see that there's mixed use land use plan designation existing across King Street, and then commercial also nearby. Medium density residential is defined in our land use plan as areas primarily located in the central areas of Kernersville and the north side of North Main Street. They provide an excellent source of moderate priced housing and limited areas available for medium density housing. However, the mixed residential areas offer opportunity for additional medium density housing. The land use plan defines mixed use as established to accommodate a variety of uses which may range from residential, commercial, office, and industrial uses. It's been established to promote redevelopment of downtown and the Bodenhammer Street area. The definition goes on to describe other areas in town where the mixed use definition is applicable to, but the redevelopment of Bodenhammer Street area is what we focused on as staff in making this recommendation. So the land use plan designates this area as part of a commercial pocket known as downtown, which is also described as remaining the traditional town center with a mix of offices, stores, restaurants, services, banks, government offices, industry, and housing. And to promote the downtown, that mix needs to be maintained along with the development of new civic and community services into downtown. The majority of growth and change will be concentrated in redevelopment of property. In the analysis, staff finds that changing the land use plan is necessary to support the rezoning request to pedestrian business. Existing land uses, as I mentioned, in the immediate vicinity are similarly designated with commercial, mixed use, and other medium density residential. Mixed use does allow for a variety of residential development in conjunction with the inclusion of commercial development, so it does leave a lot of options open. And the change in designation allows for Bodenhammer and adjacent locations to develop as a transitional corridor. We've seen this with some of the rezoning requests that Marble Granite World has put forth over the past few years along Bodenhammer Street. So we're really seeing the transition occur in this area according to the land use plan's anticipated growth of downtown. The staff and planning board recommend approval of the attached resolution to designate the properties at 107, 117, and 119 King Street from medium density residential to mixed use. This was heard at the June planning board meeting, and all members present voted in favor. Any questions before I move on to the rezoning request?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Exactly where is it?
It is right
Put
up.
a map up or?
Yes, it's right. Okay, so this is North Main Street. Let's see, Bodenhammer's right here. So this would be Farmer's Feed and Seed right here in the middle. And then there's two little commercial spots right here. This is the church and the Walgreens and the Goodwill. So it's tucked in kind of behind the Friends Church right off of North Main Street.
Now, you said that it was downtown?
The the land use plan anticipates that the area we know is downtown, not the historic downtown, but kind of our dense commercial center might grow and expand over time.
That was the question I had, because downtown stops before you get to Huston and Crutchfield.
Sure.
In terms of parking requirements.
This would be zone pedestrian business, so parking would still apply if somebody were the sites are undeveloped now, the lots are undeveloped. So if somebody was proposing to develop, they would have to provide parking.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. The petitioner on the rezoning is Dana Caudle Jones, agent for owners, the owners being Danny and Charlene Caudle and Takapa Investment Corporation. As I mentioned, the request is from RS7 to pedestrian business. It is a general use rezoning, so all pedestrian business uses apply. And across the 3 parcels, it's just over 3.6 acres. Adjacent zoning districts in the area is R7 to the north, east, and south, and then across King Street, there's both pedestrian business and general industrial. So pedestrian business is directly adjacent to the parcels that are proposing to be rezoned. Just mention that the land use plan currently designates this area as medium density residential, but staff's proposed land use plan amendment would be to mixed use. The pedestrian business district is primarily intended to accommodate office, retail, services, institutional, and high-density residential uses, which customarily serve community and convenience business needs of smaller communities in urban nodes in the town. So getting to, like, yes, the historic downtown would not change, but if we imagine the growth of our central area, commercial area, this would be the development of another urban node or an extension of that. All pedestrian business uses must be considered as part of the rezoning. Some have additional conditions that are in that gray column that may require additional consideration or may prevent that use from being established at all, but that would be verified by staff. Staff's analysis is that the PB zoning district increases the number of residential and commercial uses that are viable on the site. It allows the greater Bodenhammer corridor to continue developing as a transitional area as one moves away from the downtown pocket, and allows for the inclusion of development that may lead to more pedestrian-friendly development near downtown area. This was also heard at the June Planning Board meeting, and staff and Planning Board recommend to approve the zoning change from RS7 to pedestrian business, finding it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and both reasonable and in the public interest, because the request to rezone the pedestrian business and owning district is consistent with the amendments to the land use plan as recommended. The parcels are currently vacant, and the pedestrian business zoning district will allow flexibility in development while encouraging a more pedestrian-friendly design in the downtown area. And like the land use plan, this was voted in favor by all members present at that meeting.
Thank you, Catherine. This is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Keith, have we received any speaker cards for this meeting?
I have not.
Okay. Ed and Curtis, have you received any speaker cards? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this? Well, this is going to be a combined public hearing of items C and D, but is there anyone here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Did you want to speak? Are you sure? You're good? Oh, okay, all right. I didn't want to, once I close the public hearing, then the public comments close. And so if you had wanted to speak on this case, I wanted to be sure to give you the opportunity. All right, so no one is here to speak in opposition to items C and D. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Are there any questions? We'll vote separately. first vote would be on the item C, the Kernersville Development Plan.
A motion to approve item C.
Okay, got a motion to approve item C as recommended by staff.
Second.
Keith, have you got that Mayor Pro Tem made the motion? J.R. Gorham, second? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item D is the rezoning.
Madam Mayor, I vote to approve or move to approve item D.
Okay, got a motion by Alderman Penix,
I'd second that matter.
second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are now to item E, which is also related to item F. So we'll hear the present. Ed, would you prefer me to do a separate public hearing for an annexation, or can I combine a public hearing on an annexation with a public hearing on a zoning for Ogden School Road and Davis Ridge Road? To have two separate public hearings? All right. Catherine, do you have one presentation planned or two?
I only have a presentation for the rezoning.
Okay. All right, so there's no presentation on the annexation, and it would be, the annexation would be contingent on the rezoning passing, right?
If that's how the board makes the motion.
How is it currently written? Okay, the proposed ordinance does not make it contingent, but the board could could make it so if they'd like to. All right, so I'll call the public hearing at this point in time. So for everyone following along, we are on to item E, public hearing annexation. It's a voluntary contiguous annexation petition by Braxton Charles LLC for property located at 146, 166, and 0 Ogden School Road and 2055 Davis Ridge Road. So this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the annexation? I need to give the clerk a minute to.
That's what I'm.
All right, this is a public hearing. I've declared the public hearing open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the annexation? And you didn't fill out a speaker card, so is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the annexation, or do I just have one speaker? If you'd like to speak in favor of the annexation, please raise your hand. Okay, so I've got two speakers. All right, go ahead. You'll need to introduce yourself, state your address for the clerk, and give him a chance to know how it's spelled.
Sure. First, I apologize for not filling out the card. I
That's
wasn't sure
okay.
as the applicant that I needed to, but I am in the same boat as Catherine. I have the presentation, well, basically our comments for the rezoning
Okay,
portion of it.
first I need
That's
your
right.
name
I'm
and your
sorry.
address.
Brent Cockrum, FEI, Civil Engineering, Land Surveying, 8518 Triad Drive, Colfax, NC. Yes, sorry about that. So, again, as Catherine has noted, we have our remarks and everything for the rezoning application. This annexation application is based on the rezoning for us, so our preference is that should the rezoning not be approved this evening, we would want to withdraw the annexation application. So I'm not sure how that plays in procedurally, but that's the applicant's desire.
Okay. And then you'd like to speak as well? You could introduce yourself with your name and your address and make sure the clerk has a chance to note it.
Absolutely. My name is Greg Garrett. My address is 6420 Hampton Dole Road. That's in Clemens, 27012. I am the managing member of this Braxton and Charles LLC that owns the subject property. And we started this process with Catherine, I don't know, probably 18 months ago. So it's kind of been a long time coming, but our desire and intent is to take this 8+ acre parcel and combined it with the Weldon project that comes all the way out to Ogden School Road. It is contiguous. We had a lot of work to do to make it contiguous. There was a spike strip that we had to acquire to make it contiguous, but now we have all that worked out and would like to respectfully ask for the T&D rezoning, which is the Weldon zoning district, and that would enable us to roll this property into the Weldon development. So really appreciate your favorable vote tonight and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the annexation? Seeing none, is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the annexation? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. All right, now Mr. Powell, Mr. Swisher, and Mr. Hooker. I've heard different things about voting on this, not voting on this, so let's talk about procedurally how we're going to do this. I have heard the public hearing, and closed it. I could go on and do the second public hearing, presentation of the second public hearing before we take any of the votes. That was what it was sounding like the town clerk was advising, but none of what he said was caught for the audience to hear. So I want to take a moment and address this procedurally, how we ought to proceed.
The way it is, if you vote on the annexation, that property is annexed,
Okay.
regardless of the outcome of the rezoning. So you can vote on them both at the same time. Then if the intention is to not rezone the property, if you vote on them both at the same time and you deny it, then it's denied and it's not annexed. But the provision used to not even allow that. It does allow you to vote on both of them at the same time. But if you vote on the annexation and it's annexed, that property is annexed, regardless of what happens in the rezoning.
All right, so would you advise a combined vote on items E and F then?
I would,
Yes.
Okay, and you had instructed to have 2 public hearings, so we've had the 1 public hearing. So I'll now have a presentation by Ms. Garner on the rezoning, and then we'll hold the vote on the annexation. Okay, Ms. Garner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is rezoning case 641, Amendment 11. It is a 2-phase conditional use rezoning as required by the T&D conditional zoning and is the practice for Weldon. Petitioner is Greg Garrett, agent for owner being Braxton Charles LLC. Current zoning is in Forsyth County Residential Single Family Special RS9 and Forsyth County Agricultural. And the requested zoning is T&DC, traditional neighborhood development conditional for about 8.6 acres. You can see those parcels highlighted in red on Ogden School Road west of NC 66. The site is located on the north side of Ogden School Road and borders the current town limit line. And adjacent properties are zoned for Forsyth County Ag at the north and the east, Forsyth County RS 15 Special to the south, and T&D Special to the west. So I apologize. This blue, the hatch, is the current extent of Weldon and the town limits. on the screen in the map. The land use plan describes this area as low-density residential, and that is defined as areas that provide the town one of its unique high-quality community components. Most of Weldon is located in areas defined as the activity center land use designation. This has various requirements such as enhanced landscaping, open space, and building designs that reflect the characteristics of the area. Low-density residential is generally supporting residential at a lower density, which would be different from Weldon, but Weldon has, as part of their development plan, identified areas for denser development and then areas for slightly less dense development. So this would be outside of the activity center, but part of Weldon as it exists is also in low-density residential in our land use plan. This new acquisition of land is requested to be incorporated into Weldon and has therefore become necessary in the rezoning and the annexation. The new area would be in Weldon's rezoning plan as mixed residential and be in addition to the Ogden School neighborhood. As I mentioned, there are various different neighborhoods with different characteristics planned as part of Weldon, and the Ogden School neighborhood is down to the south. You can see it in the blue bullseye at the bottom of the map. The TNDC proposed uses are consistent with the uses and conditions previously approved with K641 Amendment 7, which is Ordinance 2015-08. We know this in our office as like the parent rezoning for Weldon. So this is kind of where Weldon all got started. So everything, all the amendments that you've seen to Weldon as they've acquired additional acreage has also reflected and incorporated these conditions from Ordinance 2015-08. Activity at Weldon and in the TNDC zoning is very important. The 4 additional tracks have direct access to Ogden School Road, and there's a future connection to the rest of the Weldon project by the future expansion of the Cross Village Avenue. A portion of this is under construction, and as the area between this neighborhood and the larger Weldon Center is built out, then that Cross Village Avenue will also be extended. Once interconnectivity of Weldon is realized, citizens in this area would be able to internally access Old Salem Road, NC 66 South, Teague Lane, and Ogden School Road, which would provide a lot of, relieve a lot of pressure on the road network in that area. The thoroughfare plan set out to directly connect Teague Lane and NC 66, which is shown in this green line, and that is roughly the Cross Village Avenue path. And then it also envisioned a connection for Old Salem Road to directly access Ogden School Road, which is this blue dashed line. So these were incorporated in our transportation and thoroughfare plan. So the development of Cross Village Avenue and its connections north and south will accomplish the goals set forth in the plan. And then the blue line would also further implement the thoroughfare plan. When the development is laid out, we would be looking for conformance with that. This was heard at the June Planning Board meeting. Staff and Planning Board voted to recommend the approval of the rezoning, amending the properties in case K641A11 from Forsyth County Ag and Forsyth County RS9 Special to Town of Kernersville TNDC, finding that both are consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and both reasonable and in the public interest, because the proposed traditional neighborhood development conditional zoning district would assist in the connection of the Weldon project to Ogden School Road while maintaining the low-density residential land use designation. The TNDC and conditional district conditions include detailed design standards for the buildings and the site plans to create that strong sense of place and a historic design framework to implement the Kernersville development plan goals of enhancing Kernersville's small-town atmosphere and establishing Kernersville as a unique, high-quality community within the triad. Planning Board and staff also recommend adoption of the site plan and the conditions as presented. When this was presented to Planning Board, they voted all in favor of members present.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. All right, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Would you like to speak?
the south. That works? Let's stand back. So the rezoning case before you tonight is for this piece of property. As Mr. Garrett alluded to just moments ago, this has been a long time coming. So as you can see on the map, the RS 15-S, that is what is known as the Montera subdivision, which is currently in Forsyth County. These tracts that are on the northern side of Ogden School Road are basically remainders of what was part of the property purchase for the Montera subdivision. There's been a lot of ideas and things that have gone back and forth regarding this piece of property. And then at some point in time, the folks at Arden, Mr. Rhodes, and Mr. Garrett got together and decided that the best use of the property would be to come into the Weldon Village. As a part of that, there had to be some coordination with Mr. Davis, which is the current largest surrounding tract owner, and that coordination was done and eventually made it through working through the annexation and rezoning process. The project, as Catherine mentioned, the project will be subject to all the same zoning conditions and everything that's part of the overall Weldon Village TNDS rezoning. We did have a neighborhood meeting early on, and unfortunately nobody attended, but we did get a phone call from the Stillwood subdivision, which is just south on 66. More or less just wanting to know exactly what was going on, but had no registered complaints. Again, Mr. Garrett's here this evening. Should you have any questions about this, Mr. Rhodes does send his apologies, but he's out of town on vacation this week. So if you have any questions, we're here. Please just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you also like to speak, Ken? Thank you. All right, is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. So staff's recommendations are on page 9. It was the slide Catherine has put up again. Is there any discussion by the board, or do I have a motion?
Catherine, I have a couple of questions. I just want to be sure I understand. This parcel is actually contiguous to a Weldon parcel. Is that correct?
You can see it in this screen. Everything that's either green or orange is part of Weldon.
Okay.
So there's a little like finger of Weldon in the green that comes down and to right to the curb on Ogden School Road. And these are the dark green parcels immediately to the right of that little like finger extension. So it is directly adjacent to Weldon, touches Weldon, borders Weldon, and the town of Kernersville limits.
Do I understand correctly that there is property, though, between the main part of the Weldon in the blue and these parcels that is not included in this?
That is correct. There is a large tract, and I believe some of these parcels came from that tract. And that's part of what they've been working with the adjacent property owner to come to a reasonable conclusion about what they were going to get and what he was going to retain. So this, I'm here using my mouse and you can't even see it, but there is a large parcel that's between these parcels on Ogden School Road and the larger piece of green that you can see in the middle of the page.
Would you mind putting up the connectivity slide again that has the two? There we go. Thank you. Is there any property that has to be acquired before either the dotted green line or the dotted blue line arteries are installed?
These are shown on the map in a general location of where we think roads should go, and so they guide us when rezoning requests come in and people are proposing to develop their property. It's like, hey, we've identified there's a need for a connection through here, and let's make sure we plan for it, but it's not on a specific transportation plan where we would be going to knock on doors and acquire property. It's just something for us to like keep in our minds as we get into these kind of situations that, hey, way back when we identified that because of the growth, we would need to be mindful of this in the future.
But we've not acquired the property.
No, they're not on an official plan where we would be out asking people to purchase property from them.
Would that ultimately require condemnation for those thoroughfares are installed?
We're a long way from talking condemnation too.
Okay. But right now, we don't own it. I mean, the developers don't.
Correct. They don't own it. What we would be looking for is that when they're laying out that final development plan that would go to planning board, that they're designing that with the future in mind. So that way, when the pieces all line up, then the puzzle's put together.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. Who pays for these roads? The blue one?
We would be looking for the developer to develop and lay out the development in anticipation of a future connection all the way through. But until it made it onto our transportation program list, it would be built in long overtime and incremental increments. So the developer would be paying for it.
The developer pays for it, correct?
Correct.
I got another question. What kind of houses, how many can they put per acre on this eight point whatever? How many houses can they put on per acre on that?
Brent, do you have a number on what you're looking at, the laying out? Because TNDC it's very different from the traditional RS9 where, it's kind of a straight, clear-cut number.
Please approach.
First, I can honestly say that we do not have a formalized plan on this piece of property. The property that is currently within Weldon, it does have a layout. It has been approved through the FDP for a low-density, single-family residential development. This portion of Weldon is intended to be in that low-density section. So just like the piece that's adjacent to it, low-density, single-family housing, that's what came back before the planning board was approved. This plan would be similar in nature. But to be very honest, I don't have a concept plan right now of what's intended to go there.
But the question was, how many houses can you put on an acre? Is that something you can't answer tonight?
Not directly. I can pull through these notes and look up right here. And the reason is, and I don't mean to be ignorant or smart or anything like that, is the density in the northern section of Weldon is different than the density in the southern section of Weldon. And so it has overall densities that it has to meet, but in the Weldon Village Center or in what's called West Ridge, which is the property to the west, that's a less dense product than what you see as far as the apartments and different things like that in the northern section. So
I hear what you're saying, but as a member of the board is what I want to know. Are they going to go in there and see how many houses they can put on that acreage, put a road in there that's 2 cars wide, build houses with driveways that are 30 feet long, and what you wind up with is an area you can't even drive through. If you know what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm opposed to, and I don't want to vote on anything tonight where we're going to leave a door open for them to do that. That's my position.
Well, I would say,
understood,
and I would say I don't know how quickly, Catherine, we may be able to get to the Ogden plan that's been approved by planning board. I know, but the plan that's been developed and the plan that's been approved by the planning board for the piece of property that's directly contiguous to this is a low-density, single-family plan. So it is not stacked in there. We can't fit, and I'm trying to find that acreage right now for you.
Okay, thank you.
But it is a 2-phase. We'd have a chance to look at the second phase.
The second phase will go to planning board for review for conformance with all the Weldon conditions. Part of what makes Weldon funny when we come to rezoning is that it is set up to have flexibility, so it doesn't have that traditional cut and dry number. It allows for flexibility in the density to be moved and shifted to create nodes in smaller density, lower density neighborhoods. So there isn't a real clear-cut answer especially at this stage, it's intended to be set up for them to come back to planning board for that final number. But the plan that was approved for the adjacent area that they would likely be modifying with this to add this to it, it was a low-density detached single-family community.
And what does that add up to in houses per acre?
I don't remember, but I think it was like less than 60 houses. It wasn't very many in that one
Less
section.
than how many?
60. Which for Weldon is very low.
60 per,
60 houses total in the plan. Like, I don't remember the number per acre because I don't remember the acreage of that development, but it wasn't, the houses were single-family detached on decent-sized lots.
Is there a certain amount of houses that has to be built before the developer is obligated to put those roads in? How does that work? Those two roads that we're seeing up there on the map?
Okay.
Mr. Gorham has a question for our planning director.
Oh,
that
sorry.
she's
Okay,
gonna
I
answer.
was trying to figure out who was talking. Yes, sir, the question about how many houses have to be put in, or how many houses would be put in before the roads have to be constructed. We're not expecting these roads to be, the roads that are going through that white section, that's outside the town limits, that's outside of Weldon, it's outside the developer's control. So if that parcel were to come in and be acquired, then we would be looking for that developer to be building those roads incrementally over time. But there are no roads that currently serve this land except for Ogden School Road, so they will have to build their way into it as they develop.
Okay.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes,
if you'd
sorry.
like to answer Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett,
And
could you
I-
read, for clarity for the minutes, could you ask your question again?
Yeah, my question was basically, how many houses can you construct on an acre of this parcel? And your
Gotcha.
answer was you don't know, right?
Well, it took me a second. It took me
Okay.
a second, so I apologize.
That's okay.
So the property next door is is right around 30 acres. That property is being developed at 2 units per acre. So that's a low density threshold, which is in the ordinance. And so what we anticipate is this piece of property that's being brought in would be of a similar nature to that. It's that low density.
Okay, well, I like that, and thank you for that answer. But are we gonna be voting on something tonight where we won't have a chance to revisit it? And
You
that's-
could add that condition to your motion that you want this portion to be developed at that same density, and then that would apply to this particular section, and it would be very clear cut in the ordinance.
I like
What-
that.
What would be your specific wording? Same density as, what's the name of the other section?
Do you remember the name of the final development plan that was done for the adjacent property? I don't.
Ogden School Road is what we were calling it.
Okay.
It was called Ogden School Road. I don't remember the case number off the top of my head. But to be very honest, I can't sit here and tell you exactly what the developer will do or won't do, because what they will do is base this on the overall zoning conditions for Weldon that have been set forth. If it's better for us to continue the case and we come back, then we can do that. So, however,
Well, the reason we're going down this line of reasoning is that you stated that you were going to do it, planning to do it consistent with this other section. And if I went back and read this again, I could probably underline the name of it. So that's why I asked for, it's 50 pages, and a lot of it's dealing with previously approved cases. So just for clarity of exactly what everybody's talking about is why I asked the name of it. So that seemed to be what you were saying, and that seems to be what's in the written materials. And so that's why we're talking about this.
no, I totally
Because it didn't
understand.
sound like you were trying to have a general use or a general, you didn't know what you were going to do. You just wanted to add it to Weldon. In that case, you might have just done the annexation and come back with a plan later. So that's why we're trying to pin it down. But if you don't want to agree to that tonight, you certainly don't have to.
Sure, and to be very frank, I think the intent was the same as the zoning case last year that we brought in for the other contiguous parties that are parcels that are up on Highway 66. This has gone through the exact same process as those other parcels. This area is in the southern section, So it's intended to be more of that low-density portion of Weldon. So I don't think, as with those parcels, whether it was the Phipps parcel or anything like that, yes, there's been some sketching on Phipps since then, but nothing concrete that we've really even met with staff or anything about. So I don't hesitate to tell you this is what we're going to do just because it's simply because I don't know exactly what's going to be put on that property, except from the standpoint within the allowable overall zoning ordinance. And that's just being very direct and honest. And coming here with the same intention that we came in with last year with the properties to the north. And when we brought those forth through annexation.
From the developer's perspective, it is not unreasonable for you or any developer, but given the fixed costs, the development costs, the streets, the curbing, sidewalks, that kind of thing, it makes sense for you to try to get, obviously, as many units per acre as you can on that acreage. I think what I'm hearing, and knowing Mr. Barrow's previous positions on some of these, is that we feel like maybe it's in the citizens' best interest to control that and make that something that we can deal more than a statement of intent, because intent can change, to be real. That is concerning, I think, on this side of the desk. If that means, I'm speaking individually now, if that means that we need to continue it and get some more specificity as to what we're comparing it to, I'm going to personally feel a whole lot more comfortable with it. I don't know whether anybody else has that feeling or not.
I mean, I do. I'd like to know where we're going. I don't want to get boxed into where we pass something today, and then when you come back a year or two later, the planning board only reviews it. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is the standard practice for all of our two-phase
Right.
rezonings.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So, said that.
May I have permission to speak to the board?
Only if a board member asks you a question. Does anyone have a question, Mr. Garrett?
Yeah, Mr. Garrett, you're the land guy, right?
Yes, thank you.
Around
Yes,
up
I
all
own the
land.
property, yes.
Look it up.
Okay.
Talk to me. What's the deal?
I would like to offer, I'm hearing all the dialogue, and maybe I have a solution. I'd like to suggest it. The property is currently zoned in the county as RS9. And I would be happy to honor that density as a condition to the rezoning of this property.
What is
RS9, it's currently zoned RS9
Which
in the
is
county.
what? Which is what?
That is right at 4 units an acre.
Right.
We're not questioning your motivation. Please understand, it's not an unreasonable, thing for you to want to have that flexibility. It's business, and we understand that, but
Sure, and hopefully this maybe could help us find a path forward, because Weldon is such a big development that it's hard to know exactly what we're going to do, but we also need to know that we have the zoning to be able to even dream about what we can do with it.
So Catherine, would you recommend that we add a condition to the rezoning that would state, how would you phrase that?
If it's the board's desire to approve it with a condition on either the minimum lot size, it's referenced to RS9 as the 9 means that the minimum lot size is 9,000 square feet. Or if you prefer to state it as a no more than X number of units per acre, then that would be a condition that you may consider adding when you make your motion.
I hear that. What do these guys want? I think RS9, 4 an acre is too many. Because this is the bottom end, it's supposed to be a lower density, right?
Right, which is still in keeping with low density. But yeah, I would prefer that it be conditioned upon density, not lot sizing, because that's part of the beauty of Weldon is it's got a lot of flexibility, and that allows for more creativity, more open spaces that are very well purposed. And so I would propose the 4 units to an acre.
What was the density of the property adjacent to this property that we're talking about tonight?
To the west, it's of course in Kernersville, and that's the T&D. Is there a standard density in the T&D? It's not defined at all.
Not really. That's the blessing and the curse of the T&D, but Mr. Cochran stated that the approved FDP is at 2 units per acre, which our low-density definition in the land use plan is 0 to 3 units per acre.
Right.
So
Okay.
do you have a problem with 2 units per acre on this property here?
I would like a little more flexibility with it, yeah. I mean, you got roads to build and, you know, you got to pay for those roads, and those roads are pretty expensive. I mean, my proposition is, right now, I'm already in the county zoned RS9. I mean, we really just thought it would add a lot of value and interconnectivity. Some of this interconnectivity that we're talking about is one of the biggest benefits of this property being added, because if you look where Weldon currently comes out, it's in that curve of Ogden School Road, which is very unsafe. But the master plan for Weldon does have the connection there in that curve. Now we have other options when you add the 8.6 acres to it.
So Catherine, RS9 would allow for how many units per acre?
RS9 is 9,000 square feet minimum lot size, so then you'd have to take this is a lot of math for me to do on the fly. So if anybody wants to jump in, I'd be happy to. There you go, 4.84 units per acre at RS9.
Do y'all consider that to be low density?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, with public services. Yeah.
Do what?
With public services and just the housing shortage, I mean, that is the trend.
Right. I mean, I understand all that. That just doesn't sound like low density to me. Again, my objection to any of these developments is a bunch of roads with little bitty driveways that hold 2 cars, and everybody parks in the road. I mean, it's all around Kernersville. I figured the fire department would be raising Cain and have a comment on this. You want to say anything, Chief? Huh? You go in these subdivisions and there's cars on both sides of the road and have to snake through. That's the problem I have. I mean, I know you guys are out there trying to make a buck. Everybody is. And we appreciate you being here. But in terms of low density, I mean, I'd like to see it. You know, 4.83 is not low density to me. And you said the adjacent piece of property over there, y'all were doing like 0 to 3. Is that right, Catherine?
0 to 3 is the definition of low-density residential in our land use plan, and Mr. Cochran stated that the FTP that has been approved for that section of existing Weldon was at 2 units per acre approximately.
Right. I mean, I like that.
Can there be a compromise with there being 3?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we got one place where it's 2, then we got proposal for 4. So a compromise of 3 per acre, wouldn't that be a win-win?
That would with me.
I would agree to that.
Sold. Let's vote on it. What does it need to look like,
So,
Captain?
the rezoning request has been, Adam, you just moved to the sheet I was reading. Never mind, I'll find it on the printed agenda. Or maybe Catherine moved it. I was about to read the slide that was up on the screen. So, the rezoning request was to go from Forsyth County RS9 special and Forsyth County AG to TND C. So doesn't seem to be a good idea necessarily to me to, after the public hearing, to change that to, instead of TNDC, to make it Kernersville RS9. So what seems to make sense to me is to add a condition that you've agreed to that expresses the same concept. And so you agree to that? All right, and so the condition would be, perhaps Catherine should suggest the wording of,
Density to be no more than 3 units per acre.
and then what condition number would you give that?
We would just tack it on in the end, so it'd be,
Okay,
we just add it to the list.
okay. It is a
We're really not-
50-page report. It's hard to
We're
find
really-
things fast, isn't it?
We're
All
really
right.
not trying to legislate you out of profit. That's not what we're trying to do.
It looks like a very reasonable additional land, and I know you worked very hard to acquire it for Weldon, so we do appreciate it. Just, I've got to have names for the minutes, I've got to have, certain things procedurally, so we do it all good. Does anyone have any questions of either of these gentlemen? All right, you can sit down if you'd like. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, so we had a public hearing on the annexation. We had a public hearing on the rezoning and site plan and conditions. So the vote that's proposed would be to approve the annexation, approve the rezoning as recommended by staff, rezoning and site plan and conditions as recommended by staff, but to add an additional condition that the density to be no more than 3 units per acre. So would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Gorham. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. Keith, did you get the motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We look forward to what you bring to the planning board and more great developments at Weldon. It's turned out to be a beautiful neighborhood. People are very, very excited to live there, and we appreciate your hard work you're putting into it. Thank you. All right, is there anything further on this item? Okay, we are to speakers from the floor in the public session. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on an item not otherwise included on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item B, consideration of a resolution authorizing the sale and removal of a structure located at 1223 Union Cross Road. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, the board approved the acceptance last, or 2 weeks ago. It has been out publicly advertised for 10 days, and we've not had any upset bids on that. This is for the small white house, basically, that faces Union Cross Road between the new Parks and Rec Center and Fieldcrest. It came with the purchase of the land. We've had an individual that's interested in moving the house to some other location, and we are interested in letting them do that. So you have in your packet the resolution authorizing the sale and removal. It's $100 basically for the house, and then they'll have to move that structure within 30 days, or, if it takes longer than that for whatever reason, we'll adjust that time frame.
Okay. Any discussion, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. At this point, I would recommend that we take a brief recess. So we will stand in recess. back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We are now to item 2C, discussion and consideration of details for items related to the Big Mill Farm Road interchange. Mr. Swisher.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet a memo that shows some of the options. We've been asked by DOT for the board to decide on some items there with Big Mill Farm Road. And, you know, they've got their standard items, the way they do it, and then if you would like that to be different, you can certainly upgrade that, and there are several options, several items that they've asked us to decide whether we wanted the standard one that is provided for free or whether the board would like to upgrade that. The one item that I do not have the cost on tonight, we've not gotten it back from NCDOT, is the cost of the fencing. There will be some fencing along the roadway. So you've got two options. You can vote tonight on the options that you have before you, and then vote on the fencing at a later date, which will most likely be the end of or the 1st of August. Or you can wait and vote on everything at the 1st of August and kind of look over this between now and then. So that's up to you. I'll just cover these briefly and then be glad to answer any questions you may have. The first one that they've asked us about is the pedestrian pedestal. You see a picture of that pedestal there. May or may not be the exact one that will be out at Big Mill Farm Road. That one is the standard one that they will put up. The option to that is to upgrade that to a black coating instead of a stainless steel, and upgrade it to black. I would recommend that if you do the black strain poles, that you probably do the black pedestrian pedals. If you don't do the black strain poles, then you wouldn't need to do the black pedestrian pedals. The other one is the strain poles. The strain poles, the other option is to do the mast arms. We're recommending the strain poles because the mast arms are quite a bit more expensive and we have to assume the maintenance of those. The strain poles, as you see there, the ones in the upper picture are the stainless steel. The one in the bottom picture is the black vinyl coated that we're recommending. And we are recommending the black vinyl coating on that. The other option is the railing on the bridge as it crosses over Salem Parkway. The bridge that you see in the picture there is an upgrade. I think they would probably provide either the solid concrete wall or the aluminum guardrail. Not sure which one. This bridge is actually the one on Salisbury Street as it crosses over Salem Parkway. You've got two pictures of it. That's a picture going across it, and then the one below that. The next picture is one that you see on Salem Parkway. The lights on top are also an option. We can have lights. We would have to pay for those lights. They would run, I think, the standard conduit, and then what else they have to run as far as conduit, the town would be responsible for, and then we would have to get the lights installed as well. The wall options would be, trying to think, it's the wall as it comes down from the bridge. Is that correct, Catherine? Yeah. So this would be wall as you go over Salem Parkway, the wall as it comes off the slope of the bridge. You have three options. All three of these are free. They do have some options that you can pay for, but these options match what is currently on the Beltway now. And I think it's actually option number 1 is the one that matches what's out there now. But you can certainly choose option 2 or option 3 as well. So for the cost of those items right now, the sidewalk, as you can see, can you scroll down to the table with the cost? The sidewalk will extend from Big Mill Farm Road all the way up to West Mountain Street, I believe. Is that correct? Right in that area. Our portion of that is $61,490 if the board chooses to do it. The bridge railing, church rail, Texas Classic, whatever it's called, to match the bridge there on Salisbury Street. That railing, our portion of that cost is $33,000. The lights on the bridge to match what's on Salisbury Street is $35,000. The traffic light poles at Big Mill Farm Road and Hopkins Road, where the traffic light, there'll be a new traffic light there. We're recommending the black metal strain poles, $2,500 a pole, so a total of $10,000. The pedestrian pedals are $500 each if it's a black metal. Again, you would want the black metal to match the black poles. $3,500. The MSE wall, if you choose option 1, 2, or 3, no charge. The fencing, we don't have a quote on that yet. So the total of everything above, without the electrical conduit for the bridge lighting, without the lights, without the fencing, you're looking at about $142,000. The fencing, I didn't see how many feet it was, but it's roughly going to be, I think, $35 a foot to upgrade from the chain link fence to the black vinyl chain link fence. I'm not sure how many feet. We recommended some areas. Mainly is what we're recommending and what we've sent back to DOT to get us a quote on. The areas that are right next to the houses, where it's pretty close up to the houses, or where it's right along the sidewalk. And right in front of, I think it's Coles. Was it Coles? Right in that area. The high visibility areas, we recommended the black chain link fencing, but we've not gotten a quote back. So be glad to answer any questions you might have regarding these. Again, you can do the standard that they would put out there, the standard pedestrian pedals, standard traffic light poles. Wouldn't have that cost. The lights on the bridge, if you don't do any bridge railing, you wouldn't have that cost either. They would go in and put the standard items up.
The sidewalk is $61,490, is that right?
That's our portion of it. It's 10%.
And that's gonna run from West Mountain Street?
Going to go from, my understanding is from West Mountain Street to, I guess, is it all the way across Salem Parkway?
I think it's all the way to the new bridge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good run. Very long way.
2 or 3 miles of sidewalk?
Probably 2, yeah. 2. And the total sidewalk's about $615,000, so our
Where are they
portion
gonna
of
put that? Which side of the road?
I think it's on the left side, as you go toward Mountain Street.
I think I was looking at the plans yesterday, and I think they're on both sides, especially on Hopkins.
They're gonna make an intersection.
At Bluff School in Big
Yeah,
Mill.
that's gonna change.
Well, so we'll get a good run of sidewalk for obviously pretty reasonable price there.
That's a bunch of sidewalk for $61,000. I like it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, is the sidewalk going to go over the bridge over 421 all the way across?
I think so.
It does. There's existing sidewalk there on Harmon Creek that kind of dead ends where the road ends,
Right.
and it would connect in there.
Okay. So you'll be able to walk basically from Mountain Street over there if you can hold out long enough to do that. Okay.
I got a question.
Y'all can ride your bikes.
So, I guess it's more of a personal opinion. It's nice to go through different municipalities on some of these newer bridges that look as nice as the one on Salisbury Street with the lights and the railing and the sidewalk. When you drive under it, I guess, can you go, Catherine, to the Church Rail Texas Classic on bridge and see the town emblem on that middle support piece on both sides? Circle?
That is an option.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, it's not an option to put it in the middle, is it, Catherine? It would be on each end of the bridge. Is that correct?
I think that's what I remember, is that the design of this bridge is going to be slightly different from the Salisbury Street Bridge, so it may not have that same center support. And so she was talking about that it would be on the end, so it wouldn't be as visible. And DOT did have concerns about the ability, because we talked a lot about bridge medallions and the visibility of our town seal on a bridge medallion, just because of the intricacy of the details. But we did talk a lot about the options and where they would be located.
Personally, that's something I'd like to see. I was disappointed that it wasn't on Salisbury Street. I just think it's nice to know where you're coming through, and it kind of adds a little flair, especially as nice as these bridges are.
And Mike could go back and add it to the Salisbury Street Bridge. we can ask about that, and you can certainly put it on this bridge. But again, I think it's going to be on the ends of
Yeah, that's
this
fine. I don't
particular
have a
bridge.
problem
You
where it
wouldn't be able to see it. That's really why we didn't recommend it.
Gotcha.
We can certainly do it. I think it would be, was it 3 of them?
I can't remember how many she said it would be, but we could find out when we find out
Yeah, I
about the
can find
fencing.
out and send you that information, and I think you can go back and add it to the Salisbury Street.
Gotcha.
I don't know what that cost would be to go back and add it. You remember what the cost was for each medallion to go on the bridge?
I think she estimated it was like 2,500 to 3,000 each, but that was her guesstimate. It probably
Yeah.
depends on the design and the detail.
I believe that's right. I think it was about 25 to 3 for each one to go on the Big Mill Farm Road Bridge.
Right.
I can send you all that information with kind of where it would be
Okay.
as well, so you can decide.
We were designing the Salisbury Street Bridge 2005,
Yeah.
or, and the effort started probably more like 2003, 2002. So I'm not sure I'm not sure that was available at that point in
Right.
time.
It was not.
This thing would be a nice addition.
I
mean,
agree
it's
with
like
you.
Go through Louisville. I mean, there's is beautiful going through
Yeah,
there.
and
You
there,
know
that
we are.
bridge is similar to this one in that it
Yeah.
has a center.
I mean, these
Center
as
support.
beautiful as the Salisbury Street Bridge is, it'd just be nice to have our emblem on.
And I think the lights really help to
Yeah,
set it off
It's great.
too.
It's a nice architectural detail.
But I agree with Chris, there's other municipalities who don't currently have medallions who are talking about adding some, so I think that would be a good idea.
I think that's cheap advertising. And you can't. A lot of visibility.
So if the board chooses to, you can vote tonight to approve the recommendations for the sidewalk, bridge railing, lights on the bridge, the traffic poles, pedestrian pedals, or you can not approve that. You can go with the standard, or you can choose to wait and approve the fencing and all of this at the same time.
What do we think about the options 1, 2, and 3? Do we want it to be consistent with the rest of Salem Parkway, or do we want it to be a little different? Catherine, do you know which one the rest of Salem Parkway is?
I don't, but we
To
could
me,
find it
number
out.
1 looks the most familiar, so I'm thinking that's probably what it is. It looked like number 2 was really similar to 1, except that it's smooth instead of textured. This looks a little more modern, which there might be some merit to that as well.
Yeah, on most parts of Salem Parkway, it's one of these 3 options. Now, as you get into downtown, they paid for some of the different options. They had brick and this and that, but it's just a couple of them in right there in downtown. And I think, Dorn, have you seen what the bridge is on the Beltway? Which one of these it is? You paid attention? I think it is the first one. Yeah. Yeah. That's why, I think that's why we made it option 1, is because that's the same thing that's on the Beltway.
It's like it's the same pattern, 1 and 2, but different textures. If you look at them.
If we approve all but those 2 portions tonight, the exclusions, the fencing, and the other item, would that move things along a little more quickly for you?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna move it along that much quicker because they're not anywhere near getting ready to start. I think it would just let them know. They prefer to know sooner rather than later, but of course you could, and I told her, I said it might be August. This was before I had not received the cost of the fencing. I'd already told her it might be August, and she was fine with that. So it's not going to delay the project any to wait until August, and it's not likely to speed it up. It'll just give them they'll have this, they'll know what they're looking for for this portion of it.
If I'm looking at the screen at home, or if I'm sitting out here, I kind of would like to know, from a citizen's perspective, what the total is going to be when we vote to approve it. So that would be my individual preference, but
Well,
the board.
the thing is, if you look at the downtown, those little touches made a huge difference. And I think that there's an argument that Chris and JR have made for consistency. And I feel like we did the Salisbury Street Bridge, and it was going to be the metal. It was going to be metal straight across, like guardrail looking, until the board did a special resolution to do that. And I feel like that Salisbury Street project really helped inspire the creative corridors, which was, because that happened before creative corridors effort was going on in Winston-Salem. So I think that helped spur some of that creativity in the area. So I'm not seeing a problem with going ahead and, I mean,
I don't have strong feelings about it either. We
it's a
can do that.
huge road project, and it's going through a lot of neighborhoods, so people are going to be on those roads every day. So I think it probably is better if we would like to kind of keep those appearance issues. I don't see a problem with waiting. I would think, I didn't hear any negatives. Let me say that about having a nicer looking downtown than putting it back exactly the way it had been.
I don't have any strong feelings about it. I'm fine with that too, Mayor.
So we wouldn't be voting on the sidewalk because we're just committed to that. You've just put it on the chart.
That's correct.
So it would be the bridge railing, the lights, the metal strain poles, the pedestrian pedestals,
The wall.
and the wall, if we're ready to decide the wall. But we could decide the other things and not decide the wall if everyone wants to go and look.
Correct.
All right. Do we feel like, we've got this memo from Curtis a while ago, and we don't know the cost of the fencing, but do we want to go ahead and decide tonight, or do we want to keep this issue open?
I would motion to approve the selected recommendation, but I'd also add that I'd like to also explore the town bridges.
Okay, and is that with option 1 of the MSC wall?
Yes, option 1, whichever one is the most consistent with Salem Parkway.
Okay.
Not exactly knowing, that'd be my response.
Okay, we've got a motion.
Second.
Got a second by Alderman Penix. All in favor? All opposed? What's the basis for your opposition?
I don't want that bridge there,
Okay, so
period.
you're
I live down there, so does Bill.
you're
don't
not
want the bridge.
you're not concerned with the cost of the amenities, the design of them. You just don't want the bridge at all.
I don't want the bridge at all. I'm not gonna have anything to do with it.
Okay,
Is that fair?
that's fair.
I wanted to make a ramp off of 74 onto West Mountain Street, which makes common sense, which they promised, and then they reneged on that, so anyhow, that's
This
where
bridge
I'm
should
at.
make it quicker to get to the pool over on Fields Road area.
All right, the vote was 4-1. Did you get the vote? Keith? And that the MSC wall is the option 1, because we think that's the most consistent with Salem Parkway. And if that's not what is on Salem Parkway and the Beltway, then to maybe bring that back to the board and make sure. Are you good with that, Curtis? Okay. All right, anything further on this?
Yeah, one other item that I did not cover that we'll have to decide on, and I'm not sure how soon that will be the naming of that portion of the extension there.
Yeah, I think we'd have to have a hearing for that, wouldn't we, to change the name of Harmon Creek Road to a different name?
I don't know if it requires a public hearing or not, but we are recommending, we'll find out about the public hearing, but as you said, we're recommending the portion that is currently Harmon Creek Road, because I think there are only 2 folks on it, to change it to Big Mill Farm Road. That way it's Big Mill Farm all the way through.
Well, Lowe's is definitely, that's their address, is Harmon Creek Road.
Yeah, I think it's Lowe's and BB&T maybe, or Truist are the only 2. Is that correct?
I think it's Lowe's and Kohl's and maybe Staples, but it had the least impact to residential properties if we renamed that portion as opposed to extending Harmon Creek over 421 up to Hopkins.
So we will, not sure when we'll have to do that, and we'll check to see if it's a public hearing. I don't know if it is, but we'll find out.
Okay, I think typically when there's been a request, we've had a public hearing, but this is a little different because it's a
I just don't,
DOT
honestly don't
project.
remember, yeah. But we'll find out. And that's all on that.
We probably ought to give some thought to a process to finalize a name for the project running from Macy Grove Road and 150 to Piney Grove and Linville Springs as well. We
Yeah,
know, Mr. Dappin, would you like to speak up so we can all hear you? Well, the tape, the video won't pick up your voice if you're in the back of the room. That's what we picked. Number 1 was textured. Oh, so you're thinking a flatter wall might be easier to remove unwanted marking? Mhm. We got it.
And I think there's an option, I'll have to ask DOT again, but I think they mentioned there's an option to put an anti-graffiti type covering on it, coating.
I think that was one of the additional upgrade costs.
We definitely need to do that.
Yeah, so we can find out about that. I think it may be more than the wall. Yes, yeah, it's pretty expensive. You can buy a lot of paint for what you can buy that anti-graffiti. Which I'll check on that. I think I've got it written down, the price of that.
Would we like to talk about this more, or shall I move on? All right. We are now to item D, consideration of resolutions declaring property surplus and authorizing disposal. This is relating to portable radios for fire departments. Mr. Swisher.
Yes, ma'am. You have in your packet the memo from Chief Alderman regarding the radios, and you also have the resolution to allow the sale of those. We're recommending selling 5 of the radios to Hornytown Volunteer Fire Department and 4 of them to Griffith Volunteer Fire Department for $900 per radio.
Are there any questions, or do I have a motion? Motion for approval from Alderman Barrow, second from, I thought I heard Mr. Apple. Second from Mr. Apple, all in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are to the consent agenda. These matters are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests. Item A, approval of minutes for the May 29 closed session. Item B, approval of minutes for the May 29 regular meeting. Item C, approval of minutes for the June 4 regular meeting. I have not had an opportunity to review the minutes for the May 29 closed session meeting, so I would like to pull that off the agenda and then later vote to move it to the August meeting if possible. So I would like to remove item A from the consent agenda, so that would leave us with B and C, unless somebody would like to remove either of those. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Gorham, second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, could I have a motion to move the closed session minutes for May 29 to the August meeting?
So moved.
Got a motion by J.R. Gorham,
Second.
second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. Righty. Town Manager's Report and Miscellaneous.
I've got two quick items, and then I'll let Chief Tilley cover the one on the agenda. Ernie is asking for the board's approval to apply for two grants. One of them is through Outdoor North Carolina, and the other one is through North Carolina Amateur Sports. One is for $25,000, the other one is for $10,000. Neither one of those require any match on behalf of the town. So we are seeking the board's approval to apply for those, and then if we receive those, we'll bring those back to the board for approval to accept them.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion for approval by Mr. Apple, second by Mr. Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous.
And the other item is the item you have in your packet is Project Safe Neighborhoods, and I'll let Chief Tilley briefly explain what that's about. And if you have any questions about the memorandum of agreement.
All right, Chief Tilley.
Madam Mayor and Board, the Project Safe Neighborhoods Memorandum is a collaborative effort between multiple agencies in an effort to reduce violent crime in Forsyth County. Some of those agencies are Kernersville Police Department, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Winston-Salem PD, United States Department of Justice, Forsyth County DA's Office, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System, the Division of Juvenile Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District. And we work together in sharing data about offenders, potential offenders, gangs, guns, and other things like that. So it's just going to be a huge effort sharing data and working together to solve these crimes.
Okay, and it's your recommendation we participate.
Yes.
Okay, do I have any questions, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Well, I got a question.
All right, hang on a minute.
The only thing that bothers me about that is you were talking about potential offenders. What is that? You
Yes.
might explain that.
Okay, so what we would be doing is working with Forsyth County School System, and if they start seeing maybe a kid or other people that are young that may be headed toward that lifestyle, that they would do intervention and try to get them into other initiatives and activities and try to get them away from becoming a offender. Does that answer your question?
Well, that's a good thing, like that.
Yeah.
I just thought if you singling people out and following them and keeping
No.
information on them, I wouldn't vote for that.
Trying to
That's
prevent
a good
them.
thing.
Yes.
That's a good thing. I like that. Thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Accept the Project Safe Neighborhoods.
Second. Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Alderman Barrow, second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you for your involvement in this, Chief and Mr. Swisher. All right, do you have anything else to present?
No, ma'am. Now that I dropped my mic, it worked.
Sounds like a good place to end a meeting, right? All right, matters to be presented by the town attorney.
No report tonight, but do have a need for a closed session.
Matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. I'd like to start by inviting Chief Alderman to speak to us a little bit about the new fire station celebration with the completion of the upfits to the Beeson's Crossroads fire station. Since this will be we will not have a meeting at the end of July, so our next meeting will be after the ceremony.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Board. So on August the 3rd, from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m., open house celebration at Station 44, Station 26. Samet Construction completed renovations there and an addition a few weeks ago, and we're very excited to show the community the great work that they've done. We've had a lot of staff from our department, along with Beeson's Fire Department, that have come together and just did a lot of planning and preparation for this renovation. And so we're very excited to showcase this to the community.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything you have to present, Mr. Thompson?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barrow?
I have just a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank Curtis and for the continuing efforts on the pool and that sidewalk going up West Mountain Street. Need to stay on that. The other thing is, every year in the 4th of July parade, the sheriff of Forsyth County brings all these vehicles out to run up and down the side of the parade, and it is the most aggravating thing in the world. And I got into it with them this year. I threw candy at them and told them to quit passing my truck. That was my time, as everybody else had their time to go through the parade, and they're running up and down. But whoever runs the parade, who runs the 4th of July parade? Okay, Ernie. Ernie, do you run it? No.
The Rotary Club runs.
Yeah, the Rotary Club.
Tell Curtis, he's in the
But
Rotary Club.
We need to tell them they need to have some rules, and we can't let the sheriff do that. I mean,
I will pass that along to the Rotary Club.
well,
Maybe that's a
you know.
consideration for the chamber as well for the Christmas parade.
Well, they do the same thing at Christmas too, because they wind up near my truck for some reason. But anyhow, I'm not happy with that, and that nobody else does that. But they just run up and down. Well, I mean, you know, I spend a lot of money on that candy. And by God, when I throw it out, I want people to know it got thrown from my truck. But anyhow.
Well, there is a concern for safety for children because people do dart out, and you're looking for the parade vehicles to be in the center of the road and not along the sides. So,
And my driver doesn't like it either, because they get up under him where he can't see. So anyhow.
I think we need to look at the pros and cons of that situation. Is it really that big of a deal? Is it adding value to it, or is it taking value away from the parade? I mean, from a safety aspect, having the sheriff department doing what they do, is that good for the town or is it bad for the town? You know, so let's look at the pros and cons before we make some type of decision on whether or not we want them here in our town.
Yeah, I think you're talking about them on the four-wheelers. Is that what you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. They do. They have they brought 4 of them. I don't know how many of them they had in the parade going up and down, but I think if they had them and kept them on the parade route without going up and down, it probably wouldn't be as big an issue, certainly from a safety standpoint. I saw them a couple times because they ride beside the vehicles that are in the parade, then they'll turn around and come back. So I think maybe it might be just a discussion to have with them, say, hey, look, we've got kids on the side. Don't run your four-wheelers up and down. You can have them in the parade, certainly, and have them in one place and just go through the parade in one place. That's what we do with the PD.
That's what everybody should do.
Yeah.
So, but that's all. I mean, I want them here. I like them. I like all them guys. But I don't like that,
And I don't know, honestly, Chris might know more than I do. Does the Rotary Club, I mean, they don't have a lot of restrictions, I don't think, on the parade, do they?
Chris, could you come forward?
I mean, could.
And just for
get with them.
clarification, what I was expressing was what Curtis explained, just the vehicles from one group being kept together.
Yeah, it's the four-wheelers mainly that are the problem because, they're so quick and they move. Like you said, you've got kids on the sidewalk that pop out, not expecting it. Sometimes you can't see it, like with John's truck. If the four-wheeler comes up from behind John's truck and you're a kid in front of John's truck, you might not see the four-wheeler pop out from behind it. That's the problem.
All right, Ms. Comer?
I don't have anything additional except for we do ask that they continue to move and then the sheriff lags behind a little so he can do his shaking hands and giving candy out. So as for the four-wheelers going up and down, I'm sure they would agree that that wasn't exactly as safe as they'd like it, so they would probably adjust it for us. No problem. They're really easy to work with. Don't you think, Curtis?
Yeah, I agree, and I think, the sheriff probably doesn't see it because he's at the back walking, passing out candy, and I think he's got one four-wheeler there with him. So he doesn't really see what the other ones are doing up front and all. And I think it's just a matter of asking them to kind of stay in one place and not go back and forth. Certainly having them in the parade, I think, adds a lot to the parade and what they bring to it, but do have to kind of be kind of aware of what's around. I mean, we don't want someone to get hit.
Just for safety's sake, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the the public policy of somebody walking, handing out candy, shaking hands, that's not an issue. It's the vehicles moving in and out.
Right.
And I think we wouldn't want other folks going alongside the parade route either. I think that would be a problem as well. It's just, we haven't seen that in recent years. Anything further on this? Do you have anything else, John?
That's all I got. Thank you.
Ma'am, nothing here.
All right.
Thank you.
JR?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to echo the sentiments of illustrious mayor in regards to Juneteenth celebration. It was a complete success. We had the biggest crowd that we've ever had before, and I want to give special kudos to Ernie and his team who did the heavy lifting to make that celebration what it was. The local talent, Joy Combs, was a big success. The light show, although it was a little bit delayed, I mean, people stayed late to see that light show. And for that being the first light show of that nature here in Kernersville, I think we made a statement, and hopefully that we can grow and draw on those types of situations to make the Juneteenth even more larger. And I think the people here in Kernersville, from all the feedback that I got, the majority of that of that celebration went very, very well. There are some areas that we need to improve on to make it even better. And but from the feedback I received, I think next year celebration is going to be much larger than what this celebration was. So Ernie and your team, thank you so very much for all the effort and the heavy lifting. And I think Kernersville was pleased with the celebration that we put on this year for Juneteenth. And thank you, Mayor and Board, for all the support that you give to that celebration, because it is noteworthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gorham. Mr. Penix? All right, I think we have the need for a closed session.
We do. So I hereby make a motion pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to enter into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
Second.
I have a motion by Alderman Gorham, second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. This meeting is now in closed session. Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Is there any more business before the board this evening? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for joining us.